going. Stay. Go on, Luna. Come on. Come on. Come on. Luna. Come on. Good girl. Go on. Hey, hey, hey. It's Friday. Welcome, everyone. Let me get back to Zoom here. Admit people. Admit. I think there's a way for you. Hey, John.
Hi, Joe.
How are you doing?
Good, and you?
Good. Oh, I got to switch. No, I don't switch it there. I switch it here. There we go.
There you are.
Yeah, too many things. Oh, here's is.
Too many screens.
Yeah. I've been trying to find a simpler way to have the text, always visible, and I can change it. I found one that's not terrible, but I'm not in love with it either.
Hey, Zaz.
Hey, how are you doing?
Good, and you?
So, actually, now that I think about it, Jean had a question on working with the Scintilla control.
Yeah.
So, why don't you two pop it open?
Yeah, let's see. So what exactly are you trying to do? And
Yeah, I can share my screen.
Yeah.
I have this script here that creates a GUI. I'll make it larger with a regular edit control and a Scintilla edit control here.
Exactly.
And when I run this, they display like this. And when I resize the window, I have a GUI size command here on line 18 that will get the current width of the GUI and adjust the width of the control accordingly.
Yes.
And I tried something to, it works. The line 20 here works. That's what make this,
Yep.
I'll make this one always on top. But here I tried a similar technique using the side control, the Scintilla control handle that I get when I create the control using the HKey ID and then setting the width using the move command. But it seems that this control does not respond to the move command.
No, it doesn't. Exactly.
So is there another way to change the position of the control inside the GUI?
Yes. So what I'm going to do, let me just 1 second, because I do have on my, so let me just 1 minute. Right. So if I share my screen real quick.
And I'll have a second question after you're done with the first.
Let me just 1 second. So this is my old script, and this here is the Scintilla control, right? So when I go ahead and resize the window, my Scintilla control is being resized with my window, which is basically what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
So what happens is, what I'm going to try to do, I think we have a GUI size somewhere. And what I'm looking for is for how did I do that at that time?
Mhm.
Now, let me just 1 second, because here I do not see anything that has to do with that. So let me just 1 minute. So what I'm gonna do while you are ask the second question, let me see if I can find this
Yep.
Particular answer, because I think I have done it. The only thing is that I'm not sure where
Where it's
I did
done.
it. Yeah,
Where
yeah.
it's
So
done.
I'm gonna, in the meantime, just go ahead and
Yeah.
ask the second question. Let me see if I could figure that
Okay.
one out in the meantime.
I'll take the share again. Just to, my other question is that in the Scintilla control here, I set a width to 380 pixels, and there's a scroll bar here, a horizontal scroll bar here. So how could I make the content of this control being 370 or 380 so that there would not be this horizontal bar here and the text would scroll here?
Yeah, so in that particular case there, so hold on. What you're saying is you want to remove the bar, but when you're typing, you want it to show up, or you want to wrap around?
In fact, I want to wrap.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
and to wrap here, so not
right,
not
exactly.
not
to continue
here.
Right, exactly. I understand. So,
I didn't try to put text here.
No, so basically in this case, what you have to do is actually set the mode to wrap. So there's in the examples that I sent the last time, like so when we were talking about it, there was one particular option that you can set, which is set wrap mode, I think it is.
Okay.
And you want to set the wrap mode to one of the options that they have. I usually do it at the word instead of a character, because if you have a word,
it's better.
If it's gonna wrap at the character, you're gonna have half words somewhere. So I would set the wrap mode to word.
And do you set the width, or you set the number of characters, or?
No. You set the normal width. You leave it at 380, and you just set the wrap mode to word, and it will automatically, when it finds a word that has to be wrapped, it would go ahead and put it down. So if you have,
I see. So because there's no wrap here, this box here will extend as long as I had text. So I'm adding some long text here, lorem, with a snippet, and we see that this elevator, horizontal elevator, if you wish, is changing the size. So I'm okay. So I think I'll try this while maybe we have another question from someone else, and until you find the answer to the first one.
Exactly.
Great.
But if you know where to search, like in the example that I sent,
I've seen this. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
I was under the impression that the scroll would be done at the end of the control as it is now, but okay, I'll give it a try.
Very good.
Does anybody have any questions? Anything they're working on?
Hi, Matthew.
Hi, gentlemen. How's everybody doing today?
Hello.
Friday.
Yes, sir.
What I can't believe is it's actually nearing the end of July Friday. Like, I mean, where is this year going to? It's crazy.
Yeah.
I know you're up in Dallas, and I'm down in Houston, Austin. So I'm ready for the summer to be over. I was ready for the summer to be over when it started.
Yeah, I was telling Isaias, I like to read in the morning, like at least get in a little bit. So I usually go outside and read, and I think it was yesterday or the day before. It was like 6 a.m. It was even it was before the sun even came up, and it was like 85 degrees. And I'm like, I'm not going to go sit outside and
and melt
to death. Yeah,
come on.
That's right. Yeah.
You have anything you're working on, Matthew? Anything we can help you with?
Actually, I have something that I could share with you guys, and it's not a big. I don't think it's too big of an ask, so maybe it will be something simple. Give me just a second, and let me pull up a couple programs here, and I will demonstrate what question I have. Sharing screen. Actually, let's see this one. Okay. Move you guys over here. And so, let's see, I think this, okay. So this is a open source design authoring software called FreeCAD. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of it or tinkered around with it. I use a lot of different, I think I've done some stuff on this channel before, showing you guys some of the Autodesk stuff that I do. So primarily I have to work with, in my job, I have to work with Autodesk software, proprietary software. And also, another good example would be Rhino. So Rhino is another one. It's just like AutoCAD. And I try to keep all of my keyboard shortcuts typical, because I mean, drawing a line for, in AutoCAD versus Rhino versus FreeCAD, why make it difficult where, your keyboard, your muscle memory gets all kind of convoluted by switching between programs. So I try to keep everything typical, and I've done a pretty good job of that over the years. I know, watching some of your stuff in the past, Joe, you've mentioned you keeping one AutoHotkey script instead of keeping custom keyboard shortcuts for several programs maintained. Try maintaining one AutoHotkey script that will do the same thing across all programs. Something I've seen on your YouTube channel. You probably don't remember it since you do so many different things.
I mean, there's different scenarios. I have one that I have several thousand lines of just random stuff that I always want running, and it's all together. But I have 5 or 6 more that are always run that are in separate files too. So, it just depends what you're doing. Now,
sure.
One thing which you're probably aware of, but I will say this, like you, when I worked at TI, I would be like using SQL in different environments, and they would have slightly different things to them. But what was really cool was using context sensitive stuff. So I could use the same hotkey to do the same thing.
Exactly.
But AutoHotkey would update it, in that program, which was just so mercy. It was so helpful.
Yes. And that's kind of what I try to do with my workflow, regardless of what program I'm using. Even Microsoft Visio, if I'm working on Visio and I'm drawing a flow diagram or in PowerPoint, I try to say, well, a line is a line, a circle is a circle, a square is a square, so why not have all that stuff typical for all my programs? But one little quirk that I've been dealing with for several years now, and I just haven't gotten into the any of the scripting for changing the mouse buttons in AutoHotkey. So I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to override my clicks or anything like that. So in every design authoring software I use, by default, whenever I hold down and drag, well, this may not be a good example because I don't have the settings set, right? Let's do this one. So when I hold down and drag, I get this selection box, which allows me to easily select items in my models. In FreeCAD, I have to do a SB and then drag, and it's very annoying. So if there's any way that I could basically use AutoHotkey to tell the program, execute SB when I hold down and drag, instead of having to actually type in those buttons. I know it sounds petty, but you do it 1,000 times a day, it gets kind of annoying.
Yeah, no, it is just like that.
Let me real quick chime in, Isaias, just because I'm going to chime in the same thing with you, Matthew. Like I have gone out of my way not to learn how to send keystrokes and mouse clicks, right? Because like generally speaking, there's more reliable ways to automate programs at all. Now, your example here is a perfect example of why you should learn how to do that, right? Like I think it makes total sense. But I'm in your boat. I don't do it often, so I'm going to let Isaias help us because.
No, yeah. I'm sorry, I was not completely listening to everything. So if you can chime in, because I was looking for the other thing. I found an answer for whatever John was doing. So I do not have an answer right now for you. I'm sorry.
Well, the simple thing is he's trying to automate doing the same activity in 2 different programs,
sure.
But one of them's like a control, hold down control and drag and click. And the other one is just drag and click, right? But
okay.
Right. How do we have the same click,
same action?
Yeah, right.
Same thing in both
right.
windows. I would definitely, that you have a way to checking which window is active. So probably you might want to use an if when active, do one thing. If not, if it is another window, then do another thing. You could also use what they're groups of windows. So there is a window grouping thing that you can create a hotkey for this group of windows. So
Nice.
the hotkey is going to always work the same whenever any of these windows are available. So let me see.
Yeah, but Isaias, the real problem, which I understand that last one, I think it was either Chrome or something used to have, I had to have, it was this, or it was SPSS, any of these, because they actually use different executables. And I would say it's any of these, I don't care. But he's trying, the problem is he wants to have one functionality of action of I click and drag, and which he knows too. The context sensitive stuff is awesome, but we're just not familiar with actually sending control mouse drag. Like can we? And so Matthew, I know he's going to say is we need to know in each one. Can you remind us?
Sure.
Yeah.
Program on the left. What's the key combo?
Yeah, so by default, most of the design, I call them design authoring softwares. We'll just say most of the CAD programs that I use. By default, the way that you would select items, let me just draw something in here, a circle. And if I want to select that item, I can simply just drag, click down and drag, and that will select. And this is Rhino. Revit works this way. AutoCAD works this way. Almost every
PowerPoint, every software.
Yeah. But this particular software, which I really love, which is FreeCAD, requires you to, it'll allow you to change the keyboard shortcuts, but it doesn't allow me to just simply drag. See, I'm holding down and it just puts the pointer, so I have to.
Could the strategy be to intercept the left click and inject the code that you have to do 2 letters, I think, send these 2 letters and then let your mouse continue its work. I don't know how easy it is, but the idea would be to intercept the left click only when it is over the drawing on this window, and ideally inside the drawing section of this window.
So I would imagine it would be this, like I said, this program here is FreeCAD and this is Rhino. So Rhino's fine, but FreeCAD, I would imagine to be
the one that is having the issue.
Yeah, the one I'm having the issue with. It would be a WinF active FreeCAD exe, whatever.
Exactly.
And then when I click, it should, and hold down my mouse, I would want it to execute the key commands that are required.
And what are the key commands that you have to do?
I believe right now I have it set at SB. By default, it's like Shift B.
So you press S, you press B, and then you can drag, is it?
Exactly.
So okay, before left clicking.
Yes.
Okay, so my idea is wrong. So it's not that we want to intercept the left click.
I was going to say something. If you intersect the mouse click, then the normal function for the mouse click is not going to work. So I probably think you want to get, of course, you want to intercept the left click, then verify if it is being held by a certain amount. So you get there is a
mouse click down.
Well, no, the function that says get key press, so the get key state. So while get key state pressed, which means while it is pressed for a specific amount of time, you just kind of like, sometimes it is easier to kind of like show it in code and not in trying to explain it. But basically I would left button.
Did our Are You Dead script use that thing? Remember, no, not that one. The boulder, the auto boulder. Is that the one?
Yeah, the auto boulder does something similar. Yeah. Get key state. Where is it? There we go. So the get key state function is basically the one that you want to do. So while it is pressed, so this hotkey, you want to kind of like measure the time. So in the end, you're just gonna measure, so time equals a tick count or something like that. And if a tick count, so if the time is more than a specific set amount of time, so what I'm trying to get at is if you have been dragging the mouse, right? So that's what I'm trying to figure out. So if
but
it is more
Isaias,
than,
the command has to be done before the dragging starts. So what you do there will
Yeah.
do something after the dragging, but it needs to be done before the dragging.
That's true. Yeah.
dragging, okay.
Yes. So in all of the
Yeah, so-
programs, by default, it is simply left click drag, whereas in the program
let me
having
do
the issue
something.
with is Shift B then drag.
Right.
And
So
Shift B
let me
is
do
the easy
this.
way to-
So basically, let's say you start dragging. The first thing I would do is get the mouse position, right? So that tells me where you started dragging. Okay. So
Mhm.
as soon as you click the mouse, I get where you started dragging. I'm going to get the time that you're dragging. If the time is less than a set amount, I just want to send the click. So
Makes
I'm
sense.
just going to go ahead and just send the left mouse button. Okay. Because if you were not dragging, I just want to send the normal click that you were supposed to do, right?
I think you have to
Exactly.
put brackets there,
Yeah.
curly brackets.
So yeah, I have to go ahead and do this. But then that's if you didn't drag. If it is less than a specific amount of time, that might vary. We have to play with that. If you didn't drag, if you just clicked, I just want to send a click normally. That way I fix that. Now, if the time is more than something, that means that you were dragging. I'm first gonna send the SB that you need. So I know that, and now I have to send the dragging that you already did from the position, from the start of the position that you were trying. That part is tricky
Okay.
because I cannot do that. Like I cannot move the mouse that way.
Mhm.
But you get the idea that what I'm trying to do. So I'm going to send SB, and from there on, I'm going to continue
If
sending
you-
the.
Yeah, if you get the position after the while command, so you get the X2, Y2, which is the bottom left, bottom right of the rectangle.
Oh, right.
Then could you do mouse down,
Mouse,
move the
yeah,
mouse
yes.
and mouse up, something like
I
that?
could actually, yes, I could definitely use the mouse move without clicking, just moving the mouse from one position to another while the click is pressed. I think there is a way for me to simulate selecting stuff.
I have something, guys, for this. I have a routine that does a drag and select. Let me dig it up and I'll just pop it in the chat.
Okay.
That's what you're looking for, is that correct?
But yeah,
That's correct.
hi guy. But just coming back to my first idea, if at the left L button first line, what you do is you send the SB, and then you send left click and you let the thing continue by itself. So will it just insert the SB and then let the mouse the mouse do its job without
without
AutoHotkey?
any interference? The problem is when I send the click, would it remove the selection that I already have?
You would
That's what I
send.
would
Can you
do.
send left button? Yeah, sending
Yeah, I
left button.
can.
Yeah, but you don't. It will be sent at the same place where you started. It will start. It will start the dragging.
Right.
You don't do line 3, 4, 5, 6. You remove that. All you
Line
do
3, 4, 5, 6.
everything. You remove
4,
everything except, and you
4.
put line 11 at the beginning.
Okay, let's do this. So
remove all this. No, keep. Yeah, that's right.
Mouse.
Yeah, you're right.
So
you keep the sand.
Right. The problem is that I only want to do this if you were dragging, not only clicking.
Correct.
Right? Because if you click normally, you cannot send the SB.
You need to first detect it, and then
Matthew, when you left click, sometimes you want to left click for something else than dragging.
Only that. So that's the difference between these two. If you're dragging, what I'm saying is, if you're dragging the mouse, so if you're not dragging the mouse, just send the click.
Okay.
Now, if you're dragging it, then send SB first, and
then
now let's
replay.
Maybe just that would work.
What you were doing. So I right now I cannot get deeper into this because this particular algorithm that we're trying to solve has a few little details that might be very complex to solve in 15 minutes. That's one thing. Sure. But I would get you, so I could give you the concept of what we're trying to do. First of all, you have to detect whether you're dragging or not. And this is a very good way of doing it. Just grab the tick count, whatever it is, just grab some timing convention and get the last position of the mouse. So I get the starting point and the ending point.
Okay.
When you let go of the mouse, I already have the information to go ahead and kind of like replay everything.
Yeah.
If I was dragging, if I was not dragging, I would send a normal click. If I was dragging, I would send SB. And then here, this is the part that I think is going to take a little bit more time. Replay the dragging.
Yeah. You have to do it else.
Which is totally fine. You can do this.
Yeah.
You don't need the else anyways. Oh, well, yeah, you would need it in
or you need to end after line.
Yeah, kind of like
line
a
11.
return here.
Yeah. Return. Yeah.
Either that or an F statement. So you just want to send the click and nothing else, or just use an else statement. If you don't want the brackets, you can just go ahead and do
and what I would try, but we need the software to try this, is if the time is longer, is smaller. No, if the time is longer than 500, send SB, and after that, send L button anyway.
Right. Yes.
And you stop there, so you don't try first not to do the dragging. Just send the left mouse key.
As soon as I send it, it might already.
And then it will start the drag for you, and you can continue. Not sure it would work, but it worked to be tried because you will save the replay, the dragging part of it if it works. Right.
So what John is saying is just send this, just send the SB and a click, and see if the software already was keeping track of the first click. If it does, it might happen that it drags automatically for you.
Okay.
If it doesn't do that, the part that you should try is sending the dragging, which means like, using click, drag. I think there is an option like drag, mouse drag.
Guy said that he had something doing that.
Right. So you can try Guy's code. I know that there is a way for dragging the mouse. So you can do that and replay it by using the original position and the end position.
Yeah. That's why I think our auto boulder has some of that dragging, doesn't it?
Not exactly. It does something else. But because what I'm testing is if there's something selected, nothing about, replaying the dragging.
Yeah, check out the function I sent you. It uses some DLLs and it's a click and drag for a selection, and it gives you the XY1 and XY2.
Okay, so that's basically what you would do. The XY1 would be this where you started, and XY2 would be the ending position. So you would take a little time to go ahead and take a look at that and see. If first try this. It's an if-else statement. If you have been if you haven't been dragging, just send the left button. If you have been dragging, just send SB before sending the L button. If that works, great.
Okay.
If not, then try whatever Guy is sending you. Yep.
It's in the chat. There's a file in the chat.
In the meeting chat.
Right.
Yeah.
On Zoom. Okay.
So what I'm wondering, because this kind of thing just in general, it's one of those things, especially when you're not used to it. It's like you almost have to stare at your hand and study what you're actually really pay real attention, slowing it down and thinking about what am I actually doing, right? And then how do I replicate it? But my question to you, because it reminded me of when I try to do stuff at the command line prompt and I'm inserting variables and stuff, and like, man, it's hard to see what's really going on. When I came to that idea, I was going to ask you, will an on-screen display tool that will reflect anything going on, will that actually help show of here are the things that are actually happening?
Well,
you know what I mean? Saying this key was pressed.
Yeah, the problem is with an on-screen display, if you do it yourself, you have to know that if you have a loop, because an on-screen display that is following the mouse will need a loop. You have to take into consideration that while you're in that loop, you cannot get things outside of it. But in theory, yes, you can do that. You can go ahead and have an on-screen display showing your mouse, and basically even a simple one at that. Like, for example, I have this let me open this library. Well, no, I have something that has this coordinate mouse saver, and again, as I mentioned, that is a loop, and I'm getting the position and showing it on a tooltip. basically you can use that to see what your current mouse position is, but I'm not saving whether the click is pressed or not. It is possible. You can do a very quick on-screen display for that. But again, remember, you're inside a loop. So that is something that you have to keep in mind. Whenever you're doing these kind of things, you're inside a loop, and there's some things that might not work as expected.
Yeah.
Because there's only one thread going and you're inside that thread, which is the loop.
I was just thinking about it because getting back to Jean's point and kind of question of not being sure if the program was already tracking this or that, or if you send it, it might help you, realize what's going on. That's all. It's a way to kind of help debug a little, because some of the stuff it's hard to realize, what is happening. Remember, we've spent a lot of time debugging some very simple stuff.
Yes.
On keystrokes being set.
It happens.
Right?
It happens very often that we spend a lot of time in things that usually don't take that much time. But it's something that we have to always keep in mind.
Which, actually begs the question: do you think that possibly that program has like a send message or something he could use to trigger it instead of replicating the actual?
Very nice question. Yes, it's very likely that if we go ahead and inspect the window, whenever you do this dragging after something is selected, there might be a message that has been sent to it that we can, instead of doing the manual stuff of dragging and selecting, we could probably send that message. The only problem is usually that message comes with information about which objects are selected. So there's a lot of things to figure out if you go down that route. But in general, I assume that there might be a way of doing it. Again, in 15 minutes, it's impossible to go ahead and give you a whole.
Well, nonetheless, gentlemen, the thing that I'm excited about is I honestly don't get even this deep into my scripting. It's pretty much just the basics of hot strings and keyboard shortcuts. So working with if else statements is going to be just a good exercise for me nonetheless. And so I really appreciate this, and I'll tinker with it and see what happens. And I'll also try guys get selection AHK script that he sent me, and I'll report back on the next episode what I come up with.
The script I sent you was just a function that I use that I got off one of the forums. I didn't write this myself. I know there's no credit towards me, but it's really useful. Mouse button down, drag and let go, and it gives you the coordinates of the selection, and it draws a transparent screen on. That's how it does it.
Nice. Okay, I'll definitely give it a try. But yeah, for my own exercise, I'll definitely also get into this exercise that you had in me, Isaiah, and it'll help me just with AutoHotkey in general.
Matthew, do you have any clue how old that program is?
It's not very old. It's actually fairly new. It's all written in Python. They're coming out with I think they just issued a new version a couple months ago. So it's in active development. Like I said, it's open source. It's on GitHub.
Okay. The other thing you might look at is the UI automation approach as well. As there's some amazing stuff.
Usually there's a few other ways of doing it. The only thing is that it might get too deep for something as simple as what we're trying right now.
Okay.
But to go back to the question that John asked.
Yeah.
So what I did is that I found out where I was doing that. The problem is I was using a function called attach. I don't know if you remember that function. We're talking about that, right?
I remember it.
So what happens with attach is, so I was just giving the attach function the handle to the SCI library, and it was doing the work. But I went really quickly and verified what it was using. And it seems to be that they have an address here that is the set window position. So the set window position function seems to be the one that is able to resize it. But I would bet money that if you would use the win move function from AutoHotkey, it might do the same thing. So right now, what I'm trying to do, allow me just 1 second. Let me reload this. This is giving me some errors there. I wanted to try to verify if I could use a wind move on this.
Mhm.
Okay, so I got the thing. Now, what I could do, SCI is my handle, and let's get my.
Attach is a separate script. Is it a library or?
It was a library, yes,
Okay.
but I'm trying to get an answer to whether you need that library or not, because I
Yeah.
think you don't need it. Because if I have my main window here, so window and the SCI, so say for example that I do wind move, right? And I think the wind move command accepts some handles, right? So the wind move is going to be the wind title.
Yeah, yeah.
So the wind title and text
Could be AHKID.
KID, right? And I could use, let's try first the window here. So this is that one. I don't need a text, and I need a big, so X and Y and width and height. So X and Y.
And it could be only with
X and Y, and then let's make a bigger size here and a bigger size here. Let me see if that works. Yeah, that moved that. Now I want to verify if
I think you need a space before win line 9.
Before the win?
Yeah.
No, it actually worked. So,
oh yeah, it doesn't need a space between the IHKID. Okay.
Right. So what I wanted to try, so this actually moved the window a little bit higher. What I wanted to try is if I could do the same with the Scintilla, but it looks like I couldn't. Now it looks like I could definitely use this DLL call itself, but it seems to be that so let me see something. Yeah, he was just using that control, and you pass the handle to the control and the parameters to it,
which is the site
right.
SCI dot handle.
Yeah, the SCI in this case, the SCI would be the handle. So SCI would be the handle that would be passed to this position here. So if I use a DLL call, let me just try it. So the DLL call here would be, and instead of this guy, I just want to use this guy here. So I just want to set window position, probably just like this. So this would be the SCI control.
Is it SCI or SCI dot HWND?
Oh, that's a good question. I think the SCI, when you create a new control like that, it actually just sends back a pointer to the control. Let me see, hold on. No, that's an object. So let me double check something. You might be onto something here. SCI.handle.
Yeah.
I think I don't remember. Yeah, so this is the handle. So probably what happened there was that I didn't use the correct handle for it. Wing move. This is gonna be HKID. And now I'm gonna use this. And then I'm just gonna copy all this.
I'm surprised that you don't need to put a space between the AHKID and
oh no, you don't.
The handle. Okay. Save a space.
Right. Yeah, it is something that at least it moved it.
Yeah.
The only problem is that it used title X, Y, and then it moved this there. I don't know why it moved the X and Y locations for it. So I know that the title, the text is empty, the X and Y. I assumed that was the width and height. But for some reason, at least you know that you can move the window now, right?
Yeah.
The only problem, so this function, the wind move is the one that we want. The only thing is now figuring out why the heck is doing that, right? But, oh, there it is. So
okay, I tried this using GUI control and the sub command move, and it didn't work, but wind move seems to work. So I'll try it.
So the wind move, you can give it a try. And the reason why I was trying this is because my logic told me that if I'm using set wind position, it's very likely that AutoHotkey, when you use the wind move command, it's very likely that it's using that same.
And you're not moving you're not moving a control. You're moving a window, which is inside the control, or is
the problem is that Scintilla creates a window class.
Yeah.
right? So the Scintilla control creates a window. It's a very, the only thing that we're doing is that we're telling that window to be a child of my main GUI window. That's all we're doing. So in this particular piece of code, when I say Scintilla and I pass the main window there, in reality, in my wrapper, what I'm doing is grabbing that handle and setting the Scintilla control to be a child of that handle. So there are two windows and they could be separate by themselves. The only thing is that I'm telling it to be a child of the main window control. As that's the case, the win_move command should be able to move a Scintilla controller. The only thing is that right now I didn't understand why this happened. I would have assumed that, yeah, there it is. So you can definitely make it smaller because at the beginning I created it with 600, 400. And now I made it 200 by 200. So I definitely moved the control with that. The only thing is that it seems to be that when you use the win_move without parameters, it does something that I was not expecting.
Yeah,
That's all.
you need
It
to
just
put
moved
XY, maybe if
right,
you don't
it
change
seemed
that.
to be right, exactly. So it looked like if I don't pass the X and Y locations, it does something with it that I was not expecting. That's all. But if you just put it in 1, 1 or 0, 0,
yeah,
or whatever position you originally had, then that should be good for you. You know, it should work just fine. I just moved these to whatever.
I'll try it. And maybe for those who were there at the beginning of the video, I had a second question that has been solved, so I can just share the answer. Maybe someone will be interested. I can share my screen. So my question was, when I'm running this, first, I didn't have this command here applied, so the wrap mode. So if there's no wrap mode, the text is not scrolling and we have a long horizontal bar here. But if we enable the wrap mode of the Scintilla control, then it will wrap inside the size of the window.
Right.
Here.
So now
that's one of the things I need.
The word true there.
Yeah.
And that's okay, you can use that. But the set wrap mode allows you to set different modes, and each of them have a number. The reason why this one worked is because I think that number 1 is word wrap, but number 2 would be something else. Number 3
I just copied it from one of your examples that
right. So basically, so I'm just clarifying.
It could be, yeah, I remember you said that it could be wrapping at the end of the word or wrapping at every character. Right. Yeah, I'll take a look. But one is exactly what I need. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the reason why this works is just because 1 is the word wrap. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, I'll give a try to the win_move during we have another question and let you know if Eureka, we have an answer.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
So what is the other question? I think Guy was the one that mentioned.
Oh yes, I've got a quick one.
Go ahead.
Okay, sorry. I'm tethered to a mobile phone, so we've lost the internet because Granddad cancelled it by mistake. He got now he's had a brain op for 10 hours and they removed a tennis ball from his brain basically. So he's not quite with it. So anyway, a quickie for you. Can you please re-explain in functions what by ref means?
Yeah, sure.
And I'm going to try to explain it the way I think it works, but maybe I need to listen to you first. So you go first.
Let's. It is. I have different ways of explaining it, but
well, I've done the course. Right. But I'm just confused. So
not a problem. Think of it. Just grabbing a copy of a variable. So let's do this. So I have a variable that has some text. Now I have a function now that I will pass the variable to it, right?
Yeah.
Now my function is now using that variable param1, and I want to see what the param1 is, and that's it.
Okay.
So this is something very common that you use very often.
Okay.
Now, if I pass by ref here, you will not notice any difference in either using by ref or not, but there is a difference, okay? Now, the difference is when you don't use by ref, what the function is doing internally is that it's grabbing this text and setting it into a different, it's making a copy of the text.
But hang on. If you run this again now, function param1 should be blank.
No, it's never blank because I'm passing it here. I'm passing it a parameter. So
How do you, hang on. The function. You're passing it. Okay, you're passing it VAR, and it goes and yeah. Okay, I get that. Sorry, my apologies.
Now, right now, as the function is right now, you have to understand what it's doing. First of all, it's
copying.
It's copying the value from
var.
VAR.
Yes, and putting it into value param.
Yeah, in a local variable.
In a local variable. Yeah. Okay. That I get. Easy.
It's copying the value. Now, this is the interesting thing. It's copying the value from var into parameter 1. And when you look at it, so now you have 2 times the same text. You have some
Correct.
text outside and some text in param as well. So because you
Correct.
copied the value.
Yes.
When you use by ref, that's not what is happening.
Okay.
When you use by ref, so now if you use by ref, let me make it here. This is not by ref. Okay, so not by ref does that.
Yeah.
Now, when it is by ref, what you get here is not the value of text. It's not the text itself. What you get is a copy of the address of var.
Okay.
I get that copy into param1. What that does is that when I refer to param1, I would go to where that text is and I show you the text. But here's the difference. I do not have a copy of the same value. I have the where it's located at.
Okay. So when do you need to use this?
Right. So there's 2 different ways that you can use this. So one of them is when you do not want to access global variables, global var, you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Using a by ref like this is definitely using something as a global variable because now param1 refers specifically to this thing. So yeah, that's one way of avoiding using global variables.
Okay.
The most useful one is when your variable here contains too much data. Let's say that you read a file read, right? File read.
And it's a huge file.
And it's a huge file, 2 GB file.
Yeah, okay.
When you pass it to a function, you don't want the function to copy the 2 GB into memory.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? You already did that. You already read the variable.
Yeah.
So now you use the by ref to make sure that instead of making a copy of the whole thing, you refer to the original location of it in memory.
Okay.
So that you don't have a duplicate value. That's where.
So
there's another reason is when you want to return the value that would be changed inside function.
Right.
So
That's
if you return to your example, Isaias,
yes.
A function can return a value, but only one value. If you need your function to return something more than the return value, you put it in a parameter with byref and you can modify. And the reason that because you can modify is what Isaias explained, is that you have, in fact, a link to the var value itself. So if you modify param1 inside the function, it will in fact change the value of var. Because
so guys, can I make it simpler and tell me if my statement is correct? If I put var twice, send var to the function and not use byref and use var instead of parameter 1, I'm basically using 2 different function variables that are not linked.
One of them is local and the other one is global. Yes.
If I use byref, I'm in effect making var global, and if I change var within the function, it'll change it outside the function.
That's totally right. So check
that is That's why I would probably call it the same variable rather than a different variable, just to stop that confusion.
Yeah, but you don't need two. And the
would
confusion could-
definitely, it would be, using the same name would lead to more confusion, by the way. So it is.
Put an underscore in front of it or something just to differentiate it.
Right, but in general, what I would say is, because the problem is, it doesn't matter what you pass to it, and it could change. So let's say this function var2. So I have var1. Now I have var2. Now what? Are you going to name your function var1, var2 now? You don't, your function, the name of your
I get it. I get
right,
it.
so your name of your parameter must not reflect the name of the variable that you're passing to it. It could be any name. It could be a very generic name, whatever you want. But in the end, notice what is going to happen. Check this out. This here, I'm passing a byref param1. Whatever you pass me to it is actually a variable outside, right? And when I change the text of it, if it is byref,
yes,
it would definitely change the original variable because I'm referring to the same thing. So right now, I'm not making a message box out of these guys, right? I don't have a message box anywhere. I'm just message boxing the variables after I call the function. And you will notice that I should get the new text on both of them. So var1 and var2 were definitely changed by my function because it is a byref. If I don't have that, the text that is going to have is the old text. It's not going to be changed.
That is a very concise explanation.
Right.
Thank you very much.
So basically, in general, just keep in mind a quick way of thinking about it is that if you use byref, you're actually using the global variable. You're essentially making it global, and anything you do to that variable is going to be affecting the global variable itself. That's all. That's the quickest way that I have to explain that.
Well, I honestly, what I find humorous is I don't think once anyone ever said you're passing it by reference. Which that's what I would do, is to remind you of like, oh, this is a reference to that variable.
It's
right?
a
Like
reference,
that's the
not
point.
the value. You're
Yep.
not getting the value. So if you don't have that, you're getting the value. If you get this, you're getting the reference to the variable to go and look at it. That's what you're getting.
Now, the second thing I want to add, which is addressing Jean's, which is what I say too, right? Hey, functions can return one, but I'm gonna say one thing, right? That thing can be a variable, or it could be an object, with an array, or whatever you want in it. And that's, instead of using byrefs, I just return an object. And to me, in my head, maybe it's not the most efficient, to your point, Isaias, but it's so much easier to understand.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things going on that topic, but if you guys have any other questions, just let me know before I mention something about that. Kind of like a little insight on that.
Joe,
We have another question.
Joe, just maybe before we take this, I would just close the first question I had. It will take 30 seconds.
Yep.
Just to confirm that
I'm looking at my watch.
the win move here, using the site handle, the Scintilla handle that is created when you create this. And the third, the second parameter, we don't use it, but the third is the top left, the X, it's Y, and it's the width here. So, and this works. When I resize, it will resize both control, the standard edit, and this one. The only point is that you have to give these values
the original
here.
position.
Yeah, if you don't give it, it will just lose. It will put it somewhere outside my window.
I know where it is. I know what it's doing. You see the width and height of the control is grabbing that and putting it as X and Y. So it's putting it to the right, right?
Skipping the first value, or is
what you can do is probably, I don't know if my object already has the X and Y location saved.
but I set them myself here, so I can
Right.
just keep this in variables and reuse these variables here or
Or
something like
just
that.
use
So it's not an issue.
SCIX.
And it won't move. It will never move in my application.
Exactly. It's going to be
so I'll keep them as a fixed values.
What I meant is that I probably have the SCI control, have SCI.x for the position and SCI.y.
Yeah, here with
Probably I have that.
Yeah.
So it was
So
more than 30 seconds.
right.
Yeah, it's not me. It's Isaias. Thank
Yeah,
you
very
very
good,
much.
yeah.
Thank you very much,
It's
Isaias. It
awesome.
solves the
Yeah.
issue, the roadblock I
Right.
had for using this nice
little-
control, this nice wrapper.
We're almost out of time here, so let's get to Thomas's question.
Right. I'm not sure if
Sweet.
that's ready, but yeah, it should work. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Barely.
Perfect. So I have a question regarding GUIs in AutoHotkey 1.1. This is a bit of a niche question. Are any of you aware of a way to have basically the GUI close event trigger directly a class method instead of like a non-class function? What I'm basically trying to do is to encapsulate the whole data and all behavior associated with the GUI inside a class, and that's the only thing I haven't been able to put it inside a class.
Ooh, that's a very good question, and so let me try to explain. So in version 1, but I think I'm not really sure if they have updated this, but the GUI close event, look, some GUI events can be called as a subroutine. Okay, so as a label. So use a label, but the labels you cannot put them inside a class because they are kind of like global, right? Now, what you can do is inside a method of the class, you can have the subroutine. The only problem is that that subroutine is global. You cannot have like different, even though it's inside a method. Let me just show you what I mean by that. So I have class test, and I could have a subroutine called close test close or something like that. And in my subroutine, I could definitely go ahead and add a GUI close here and do something. So do something and then return. And my function can have other stuff here. So I could do a lot of other things here. Now, this subroutine is technically enclosed inside my class. But again, remember that this is still a label. So you cannot have another label outside saying GUI close in your code, because it would tell you that it is going to be duplicate. So you can have only one. And depending on the GUI, if you have different named GUIs, you can have main close, and in another function, you can have, you know, or you can have one big method that contains them all, close events. Now you have main close and toolkit GUI close or something like that. So you can have different subroutines, and that's how I would try to do what you are doing. Right? So you can do that. You can have a method and enclose all your subroutines in there. And if you are working with version 2, what happens is that if you create a GUI in version 2, that's what you do, you create a GUI. And now that GUI can have on event, and then you say close, and then you do whatever you call a function or a method, do this, whatever it is. And what happens is that just by doing this, each of your GUIs, my other GUI, have all the events already encapsulated, because now the event for one GUI might be different to the other one. So I'm not sure if you follow here, but basically the encapsulation that you're trying to do is already done in version 2 by using the on event thing. In version 1, you cannot enclose them into an object because they are subroutines like this, and they are basically global at that point. Now, I don't know if you can use that as a function, which I think a lot of subroutines now in version 1 could be called as a function, and you can have an asterisk there to kind of like call it as a function. But this is the closest that I can get with AutoHotkey version 1 to doing what you're saying, enclosing it or encapsulating it inside a class. This is the closest that you can get.
Right. So basically 1.1 does allow you to use a function in place of a label, but like you said, it cannot be a class method.
Hold on. It does for certain things. Like, for example, when you create a GUI edit control, you have your width, height, and then you have the G label. Your G label here can be like a function, and that function can be defined somewhere else with very specific parameters. Yeah, you can do that. So you can define a G label as a function, but I'm not really sure if for the GUI events, you can do that. The GUI events like closing or escape, GUI escape, or GUI move, or GUI size, as John was using. I don't know if they can be functions like this, because I don't know if they're called the same way. That's what happens.
GUI close at least is one of those that you can have. It's documented in AHK 1.1 docs.
You can have as a function.
Last minute.
So you can have it as a function. In that case, you can use them as functions, but not as methods of a class.
Yeah, unfortunately so.
Right,
yes.
that's the problem. That's the thing. So in version 2, you can use a class as an event sink, and yeah, all the functions that you're referring to can be methods of that class. But in version 1, you cannot do that. 100% sure you can't. You can have them either as a function or as a label like that.
Sweet, thank you.
You're welcome.
Everyone, we got to jump over to the hero meeting. If you're
Yep.
interested in signing up, you can see the link in the chat. But thanks everyone.
Talk to you later. Bye.